Hello everyone and welcome to this lesson. Today we're going to be covering buffer overflows. So this is just going to be a conceptual overview. We're not going to get into how to do a buffer overflow today, just the concepts behind it. So if you have a development background, this may be common knowledge to you, and if you don't have a development background, you may glaze over a little bit in this section. So stay with me here. I don't come from a development background either, and I find this incredibly boring, but I think it's important to know. So we're just going to cover really just the basics. So if we look at buffer overflows, the first thing we're going to want to look at is the anatomy of memory. So this is sort of what memory looks like. You've got the kernel, so kernel's kind of like your command line. We're at the top of the stack here. So if we're sitting at the top of the stack, it's going to be something along the lines of a bunch of ones or 0, FFF. And at the bottom, we have just text. So this is kind of the read-only code of our program. And these are just a bunch of zeros. So it's important to know that this is the top and this is the bottom. So in our memory here, we have the stack, which is really what we're looking at today. And the stack's going to go down, while you have the heap here, which is just a large area of memory, and the heap's going to go up. So without saying much else, let's just go right into the stack. So with the stack here, you also have a top and a bottom. So picture this still being in memory, but now we've got the top here, which is our ESP, and we've got the bottom here, which is our base. So this is our EBP. So if you remember B for base, and we've got ESP will be the top. So what we're interested in here is our buffer space. And when we have a buffer overflow, what we're talking about is poor input sanitation. So when we have code that we're supposed to run that's supposed to go into memory, we have a space right here that we're supposed to be able to fill up. So we should be able to fill up this entire space and grow downward, right? But we're supposed to stop here. We're not supposed to be able to pass this. If we get past the EBP, then we've overflown our buffer, right? So if we're being malicious and the code has poor sanitation, then we can overflow the buffer all the way down to the EIP. So the EIP in our return address here, that's our pointer. So if we can get our code down to a pointer instead of return address, then we can point that address back to malicious code. And that's really what it is. So all we're trying to do is fill up this space with a bunch of characters. It could be A's, B's, it could be anything you want. So normally in our demos, we're just going to fill it up with a bunch of X41s. So forgive my handwriting there, but this would be an A, 42 would be B, and you'll learn characters kind of as you go. But over the next several lessons, that's really what we're going to be covering. We're going to be covering how to overflow a buffer space, and we're going to cover how to get to the return address and point it out somewhere to malicious code and eventually get root shell with using netcat just like we did before. So that's really it. Don't shy away from this lesson and this next few lessons. So buffer overflows, I'm going to say it's probably the hardest concept to grasp, but once you grasp it, it's the easiest part of the course. And it's really going to help you in your exploit development. You're going to learn a lot of tools coming up here. And the most important thing is it's worth 25 points on your exam. So you're given a box and you have to write your own buffer overflow, similar to what we're going to do in the next few lessons. And in my opinion, and a lot of people I've talked to's opinion, it's honestly the easiest part of the exam. A lot of people come in and they talk about it, and it kind of makes you nervous that you have to write your own shell code, especially if you don't come from a development background. But I'm telling you, that's going to be the least of your worries. So go through this section a few times, and once you really get it down, then you're going to go into the course feeling comfortable with buffer overflows, and you're not going to even have to worry about this on the exam. So that's it for this lesson. My name is Heath Adams, and I thank you for joining me.